Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Psychogenic Symposium. I'm William, here with my wonderful co-host Jacob. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing fantastic.
Glad to hear it. And this week, as our guest, we have the wonderful Tamwin. How you doing?
I'm also doing pretty good.
Glad to hear it. So I know all of the things I know about you, Tamwin, come from the Goblin Points interview you did, I think, a while back. So, would you mind introducing who you are and what you do to our audience?
My name's Tamwin. Go by Tamwin5 on the Discord and Reddit and all those other wonderful places. And I've been very involved in the homebrew scene for Drawsteel basically since the Kickstarter dropped. And yes, there was not a homebrew channel then. Yes, the system changed multiple times and completely invalidated everything I had done, and none of that stopped me. So I'm probably most well known. I've got some stuff in the homebrew channel which dives into the math of draw steel. And so, like for example, if you wanted to make your own kit, make your own ancestry, I think I was at least one of at least the first person who was actively talking about it in terms of sharing that with the community and helping other people to make their own stuff.
I remember seeing you share it, and it's really useful. It's in general creation.
Hmm.
Yeah, you kind of cracked the math behind. Now I don't remember when that interview came out, so it might have been an older version of the
11 months, I think.
kit system. I'm not super familiar with how the kit system has changed. Hi, for any of you who haven't listened to our other Draw Steel podcasts, I don't play Draw Steel really. I've played a couple of times. I like the system. I think it's great. I just don't have the time for it right now. So I am not super familiar with how the kit system might have changed since you did that math, or if you've done more math. But I thought that was really cool that you went through and figured out, oh, well, this is worth this much and that's worth that much, etc.
I think it's really important for communities like to have that sort of built-up knowledge base, right?
Hmm.
Of the sort of the idea of like how to design for a game. And I think you were definitely sort of one of the founding sort of people in the community to start doing that. Um,
Yeah, no. MCDM has talked quite a bit how they plan to release all the math behind stuff. Uh, and James Intercosta regularly streams, and on one of those streams, I asked him, I said, "Hey, when do you think you'll be able to, get all this math out to the community?" And he just kind of like let out a breath and said, "That's not going to be until release happens at least." And I went, "Well, all right, time to do it myself."
I love that. All right. So, for those who haven't listened to us before, our podcast, we are the Psychogenic Symposium. Welcome. Uh, the structure for our podcast is in this first half. We're going to get to know Tamwin, as we have started to do already. We'll talk about the system, design we can do for the system, that kind of thing. Then we'll take a break, and over the next week or so, between the recording this first half and the second half, we will have 3 cumulative hours to work on prompts that we will give each other at the end of this half of the recording. And the second half, we will come back together, show off, and talk about what we made, things we might do differently, things we would polish if we were going to, say, publish this, put it out to people, and all that sort of good stuff. So, we have a few quick icebreaker questions. Who wants to go first?
I guess I can. A
great.
question I have is, what was a time when you were, designing a campaign and you came up with some idea, and then you got your players together and a player said, "Hey, I've got this character concept or this goal," and inside you're just thinking, "Wow, that fits perfectly with this thing I created entirely independently," and it just like marries.
Oh, that's going to be really
Have
hard
either
for me to
yeah, have
answer.
either of you had things that um happened like that to you?
Trying to think.
I
Go ahead.
I've been running a campaign for the past technically like 2 to 3 years, although we had a large break in between. Which currently is the one I'm running in Draw Steel. We transferred over. It started off very faith themed. It was directly
Hmm.
an offshoot from the Dealing Tomb.
Yeah.
And when the players actually made a sort of Fey changeling character, and in general, it
Oh.
really helped because I already had like idea of like sort of this like fae, sort of like archfey, kind of made the forest, and it really just helped me sort of expand upon the campaign concept with that, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
This one's going to be hard for me to answer because I don't run games a lot. I don't
Yeah.
love running games. I don't dislike it. I'm fairly neutral on it, but I prefer playing to running. So I mostly only run games when there's something very specific I am interested in that no one else I know is going to run. So very often the people who are coming into games I'm running are being introduced to something new and weird for the first time. And I'm trying to think. Um,
Oh, has there been a game that you've been a player in that something like this happened?
maybe. Oh, you know what? Actually, a really good instance where this did happen is I had a player come in to a I built a little mini adventure to help do play testing for the 2024 5e rules that were being put out. I waited till like a few of the classes had some test stuff out and like a couple of races too, so that we could sit down, we could try a few things, and the whole point was to go from like we would every session we'd level up, and it was just like 1 to 5 or 6 because that's kind of the most common play levels. Just see how it felt, what we thought about things, stuff like that. And one of the players came to me and was like, "Hey, I was going to be a noble. I thought it'd be really cool if I was um, like the last member of this like family that everyone thought died out or something." And in my homebrew setting, there was a very prominent kingdom that recently uh, went through a series of catastrophes, and they thought the entire like royal family was dead and gone. They were all supposedly gone. So I was like, "That's perfect. How do you feel about this? Like being that guy?" And that player
Hmm.
loved it and ran with it. So that I think that would be my one.
All right. Pretty great.
Well, what about
How about
you?
you, Tamron?
Oh, so if I had to pick one, this is actually something that happened much like into a campaign
Okay.
where so I was running a West Marches game for like 30 to 40 people, set of course in the Hollow Knight fan-made TTRPG system. Um, and one of the like out in this world, I had a location where there was a nail master, and I knew that like when I was sort of building this world before a single player had been recruited, I went, you know, I think this nail master's like sort of quest is if someone masters every single nail art for a weapon, and that would be like 10 to 20. It was like not an easy or simple thing.
Mhm.
Um, he's going to give them this powerful charm sort of as a reward to reward their mastery, their dedication towards something that really, like, after you got 3, like, you don't need any more. This was just for the sake of it. Anyway, one of my players just decides, hey, you know what would be cool is if I learned every single nail art for this weapon. And ended up being in the party that like discovered the snail master out in the world and was only missing a single nail art left, and so ended up getting taught that final nail art by the nail master and then bestowed upon this charm, and it was just this absolutely perfect moment.
Oh wow,
That's awesome.
that is really cool, especially the like almost the double whammy of not only did they play into it just with like their character concept, but they were in the party that discovered this
Yes.
event. That's super cool.
Yeah, when you talked about this, at first I was like, oh, like whenever like in the session 0, and you're like, oh, you have this cool
Mhm.
thing, but no, you had like a whole campaign they were playing until
Yeah.
like they connected with this concept and didn't even
Yeah.
have to. That's insane.
Yeah, no, like I said, like this is just an absolute, perfect um like events lining up, series of coincidences.
That is really cool.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so should I go next?
If you want
Yeah.
to, I can go next if you don't want to, though.
Okay, I can go.
All right.
So Tamwin, are you often a player, or again mostly a GM?
Um, I'd say
There's two
probably
fresh
about
versions of this question.
60-40 on the player side, but in terms of like I identify more as a GM, if that makes sense.
There.
Yeah, I get that totally. I'm definitely a GM most of the time, but I get to be a player fairly often.
Mhm.
So my question is, whenever you're a player, what role like in party composition do you often find yourself taking up? If you have one, like if you don't, maybe.
Hmm. Well, so in the current, so I'm playing in a 5e group because I got abducted by some friends, and it's kind of funny. So I've got a rogue there, and then in Draw Steel, the Shadow is by far my favorite class. So that ends up being, I guess, what I sort of gravitate towards. Although specifically in terms of 5e, something that actually this rogue is and I enjoy doing a lot of is basically taking a sort of stereotypical like 5e class concept and then achieving it with an entirely different combination of classes. Um, so, like for example, I had College of Swords Bard, and he was the captain of the guard.
Oh, that's fun.
His musical instrument was a war horn. So he was like, in terms of thematics and vibes, was like, oh, a warrior. He's got armor, he's got a weapon, he's got a shield. He's that sort of little bit of brusque, no nonsense type of character. But his stat sheet was full levels of bard. Similarly, I've got a rogue like rogue, some levels in fighter as well, um, but is geared out more like a ranger and has a high wisdom and proficiencies into like perception and stuff to get more of that vibe.
Nice.
I always love whenever whenever someone plays a class that feels like a non. Let me rephrase that. I'm in love whenever someone plays a stereotypical sort of character type with a non-stereotypical mechanic. Uh, like playing a paladin who isn't a paladin. They're just like a fighter. There's a fighter who calls himself a paladin, or you're not a wizard. You're like a warlock who sort of plays their magic off as wizardry. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of really good juice you can get from that
There
type
is.
of character.
That's really fun. I love that like Captain of the Guard bard idea. I was sold on it when you said like College of Swords bard because I've had that like same character. Like I've built a College of Swords bard to be like a melee like frontliner. And then you were like, oh yeah, his their musical instrument is a war horn, and oh my god, I love that. That's that is so cool. I literally never thought of that, and that is such a good uh, like piece of flavor for like a melee like get in there bard.
Mhm. The other sort of the weird bard the idea that I haven't actually made this one work, but mix it in with rogue and have them have a bunch of different like daggers, each of which has a slightly different like size and shape, so they're tuned, and so depending on which daggers you're using,
Like tuning
uh,
fork daggers kind of
yeah.
almost. That's really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't often fall into a single role. I'm usually I will usually show up and be like, okay, what is everyone else playing? And then I'll be like, okay, so
Mhm.
we've got like a tank, we've got DPS, we've got somebody like running healer. Okay, I'll go for like buffing and support. Like that's usually my thing.
I will.
Is Sorry, go ahead.
There is an alternative sort of sub sort of version of this question. What sort of type of player are you? Like in sort of the player
Mm.
composition. Like, are you a face usually? Like, are you the one doing most of the talking? Are you like a note taker? If you don't have a specific sort of party comp you playing that way, how about as a player?
Ooh, as a player, that's also a hard question for me to answer because it's often kind of based on the character I'm playing. Like if I'm playing a talky like face character, I'll talk a lot. If I'm not, I'll usually try to step back to let whoever's being the kind of face of the party shine a little bit more. If I'm guess I'm I don't know the way to say this. I'm kind of an agitator, not in like annoying the people around me, but like I'm always pushing for us to have a plan of action and go forward and trying to build consensus around what that plan is going to be.
Mhm.
As someone who's has sort of part like player groups who don't have someone like that, that is a very valuable player type to have. I'll
Yes.
be able to tell you that now.
That's why
Very
I
valuable.
often do it. I do often find myself like people will be talking, I'll be like, okay, cool, we're doing this, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
What about
yeah.
you, Jacob?
For me, we kind of mentioned this a little bit in our previous episode, which isn't yet released by the time we record this. But I like a lot of I like fighter actually. Like a lot of these martial
Hmm.
characters, which are sort of traditionally seen as dull, because I like seeing what coolness I can make in that sort of usually seen as dull sort of design area. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
and I will say 5e. I played a rogue to level 20, and even at 20th level, as a rogue, because you get only one attack as a rogue, even at 20th level. If you miss, you do nothing.
Yeah,
Hmm.
And let's just say I'm glad about Draw Steel, because 5e I've had enough for my 20th level campaign.
that's fair.
Uh, player type wise though, I also all my characters usually have some sort of goal, right? So I'd say something that sort of brings all my characters together is having a ambition to do something. I think is if you're a player and don't have ambition, then like I don't know. I feel like that should be something most players should have in some degree. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, that's my answer.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. I've
Okay.
my question, and I feel bad because I feel like I know the Tamwin's answer already, but I chose this question before I listened to your other interview. Is what is your favorite system that's based on an extant piece of media? So an already existing piece of media that somebody sat down and made an RPG system for.
Well, I mean, you don't even need to listen to that other podcast because I just mentioned it
Yeah, I
here
know.
previously. Um, yeah. So the fan-made Hollow Knight TTRPG system. I'm not sure. I could argue it's a good system, but it is a fun system, if that makes sense.
That is, yeah,
Um, like especially comparing to Draw Steel, where they've done everything they can to sort of reduce it down to one roll a turn.
hmm
And then in this system, you've got like an attack roll, a defend roll, then a soak roll, and there can be multiple attacks on a turn. And it's got a lot of dice that happens, and it can be a little slow, but just I don't know, just the vibes of the bug game,
fair.
and also like the stories that I've told with it and the fun that I've had with it. It's got a special place in my heart.
Man, a soak roll. I haven't seen a soak roll since I last time I played Vampire the Masquerade. Wild bit of game design.
I haven't played Hollow Knight. I've seen some footage of gameplay, but I've never played it. I imagine you'd recommend it because I think everyone who's
Oh
played it
yeah.
loves it.
Well, I mean, it's
Uh,
not just that like everyone who plays it loves it, but the game's also $15 full price. So
that's definitely not bad.
That's not bad at all.
and it goes on sale too. So like yeah, basically like in terms of dollars per game, you're not gonna find a better deal out there, and it's just it does so many things so well. It was my actually introduction to Metroidvanias, and
Oh,
single
really?
handedly made me fall in love with the entire genre just because of the how well Hollow Knight does it. I have not exaggerating, watched between 20 to 30 full Let's Plays of the game just to vicariously relive that first playthrough experience.
Wow. All right.
I'm the exact same with Outer Wilds.
Oh, I've only done like 7 Outer Wilds. Um, but yeah.
It's a good game.
Also
You,
on that list of things that I watch videos of to replay, I'd throw on Tunic, if you've ever tried that.
I haven't, but I know it's
I don't
similar in
think I
Outer
have.
Wilds, where it has a level of sort of learning to it that you can't really
Mhm.
be playing that way.
Yeah, yeah. If you enjoy Outer Wilds and are fine with isometric platformers, Tunic is. Mwah.
All right. Fair.
As a question, Will, do you know anything about Outer Wilds?
Vaguely. I probably
You should
know
play it. It is
more.
actually really
I probably know more about Outer Wilds than I do Hollow Knight.
good. Okay.
What about you, Jacob?
So, for those who've watched this podcast and are avid listeners, you probably know I am from the West Virginia area, Appalachian area. Um, and I have it here actually because I've been running it for the past few weeks as part at our local mall.
Hmm.
Old Gods of Appalachia, which is
Huh.
a podcast, actually. Um, it's basically Call of Cthulhu adjacent using the Safer system. That just has a lot of really cool like Appalachian horrors in it.
It is, yeah.
A lot of good theming. Even if you never played RPG, the even the first episode of the podcast is super good, super sort of cinematic. It's great.
Yeah, it's a really
Um,
good podcast. I actually
the
have
thing is,
both. Oh, go ahead.
oh, go on. You can
Hmm.
go.
No, no, you first. I insist.
Okay. I would have. I don't have many games which are related to media, so I think it's this by default. I also have Avatar: Last Airbender, that RPG, which was super popular.
Hmm.
I've never played it. I got like one of like the bigger bundles too for it. I've never played it.
That's fair.
And also, who can say no? For those who don't know, look up the cover for Old Gods of Appalachia. It is
Yeah.
killer.
Jacob is
Um,
holding up the book to the camera right now. It is.
yeah.
It's a good cover. Yeah, that
It is
one.
a good cover.
That's fun because I have both played that game and listened to that podcast. So this is a piece of media I do know things about.
Ah,
Yeah.
It's a fun game.
I'm
The
curious,
Cypher
Tamwin.
system's solid. Sorry.
Have you heard of it, Tamwin?
nope.
Oh,
I
I
didn't.
was thinking so.
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you may not because again us two are from the Appalachian region, so I'm sure we have a special like sort of notice of it than I imagine most
Hmm.
people do. So, Will, what is your sort of system that you've that's inspired by an already existing property?
Well, that was one is actually a hard question for me to answer because unlike you, Jacob, I play and have played and read a lot of systems inspired by my favorite properties. Um, I've read almost every version of a Star Wars RPG that has been officially published and some that haven't. I've read most versions of the Doctor Who RPG that's been officially published. I'm familiar with two of the three versions of Star Trek RPGs that I'm aware of. Um, I'm familiar with a slew of books and TV shows that have been adapted using the cinematic unisystem. But my favorite is probably the Serenity role playing game, which, if either of you are unfamiliar, Serenity was a movie, a Joss Whedon movie, that was meant to be an end cap for the short lived Firefly TV series. And if you have not watched Firefly, I would suggest you do so. Uh, now, I would suggest you do so without giving money to Joss Whedon because Joss Whedon's Joss Whedon. But it is a very fun TV series if you're a fan of kind of the themes of westerns, but it's set in a sci-fi future where humanity is spread out across the stars. I believe it uses the Cortex system, I think it uses the first version of the Cortex system. I would call it I'm trying to think of like a die step system. So all of your stats have a dice value associated with them. So like if you put, 5 points into a stat, that might translate to when you're using that stat, you're rolling like a d6. And if you put more points, it might be a d10. If you put less points, a d4, that kind of thing. And I don't know if it's a great system, but I love the world it takes place in so much that having any system is more than enough for me.
That's fair. I'm surprised I haven't seen Firefly because I had a whole like Starfinder Space Western campaign. I should watch it.
Firefly's good.
I
Oh, go ahead.
I also have not seen Firefly, but half of that is because I just kind of don't watch much movie or TV shows at all,
That's fair.
and I grew up under a rock. It was a comfortable rock, but I still grew up under a rock.
Yeah. I will say, I think the worst part of Firefly is that it's only 14 episodes because of network television shenanigans.
Yeah. I think with that's the last question, I believe, right?
Well, unless there's a fourth person here who hasn't talked until now.
That would be a great reveal.
It would, wouldn't it?
All right, we're inviting you on the podcast, but you gotta shut up for the first 30 minutes. Don't say a goddamn thing.
So, we have done Draw Steel episodes before, me and Will.
Mhm.
We've described it. Who wants us describing it? We have Tamwin here. Tamwin, why do you love Draw Steel? And sort of what about it really draws you in?
All right. Well, if I had to describe Draw Steel in 4 words, I think I'd call it a strategic, valiant, movie-like sort of fiction type of game.
Yeah, those are some really good words. They should use them in their marketing, I think.
Yeah,
Hell, put them on the cover.
Yeah, I think they're really missing out.
It's kind of hard to describe what I love about Draw Steel because it's just so much of it. Like, I think the sort of the biggest thing is, if I had to pick something, is the non-attritional gameplay loop with victories and recoveries and the heroic resources. Actually, here's a question: do you want me to sort of be describing Draw Steel, or what I like about Draw Steel, or what makes Draw Steel so fun to design in?
Honestly, a little of all is honestly okay. Yeah.
Yeah, any and all of those.
This is sort of like the audience is sort of view into like Draw Steel as a system, like if they haven't seen it before. So this is whatever you want to talk about Draw Steel, really, it's up to you.
So I think what I'd say about Draw Steel is just it does heroic fantasy so well. As long as you're like not looking for a narrative focused system, as long as you're wanting to for combat to be something that's a puzzle, a challenge, something you need to think through, get those tactics involved, then honestly, Draw Steel is perfect, and you should at the very least try it out.
I even think for people.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I even think for people who Draw Steel wouldn't be. Well, I even think for people who Draw Steel wouldn't be their thing. There's so many things that you could basically steal from this system. Like the downtime system, I'm a big fan of. Although I know Will has some arguments about that.
I like the downtime system. I'm just confused by the other projects. There's nothing wrong with the downtime system.
I think the attrition loop is so clean. When I first heard Matt describe it, I was like, can it be this clean and work? And it does. It just works. To steal a Bethesda parlance. And I don't know, it's just I agree.
All right, Todd.
The funny thing is about like that core loop of victories, recoveries, heroic resources. I think that was like the first week when they were designing the game. They came up with the system, they put it in, it just worked, and it's been sort of the heart and soul of Draw Steel ever since in the 2 years of development.
Mm-hmm.
so clean.
Now, yeah, so getting into the design side of things, like sort of from a design perspective, from a homebrew perspective, what makes Draw Steel so nice is Draw Steel has done a very good job at constraining power level, making sure that making it very difficult to build a bad character. They've done a good job at pulling in overpowered stuff, making sure there isn't any broken combos. There's a few things that slip through the cracks, but by and large, the system has a very even floor, and that means that you can make a character just based off of, hey, this sounds cool, and you will have a character who plays well, who you can do stuff with at the table.
I think I didn't realize how important that was until I don't know if you've seen it. There was like a dude who did like a 6 hour Raw Steel review thing, a deep dive.
I haven't finished watching it. I have it in my saved playlists. I started it. I'm like 30 minutes in, I think. But yeah.
I don't play Pathfinder, but he does. And so hearing him and Pathfinder seen as like the main D&D alternative, and hearing him talk about how many like sucky options there are, or just things that you can't get without certain prerequisites, and hearing talk about how Draw Steel has none of that, or at least didn't clearly have any of that, it just kind of, while being so content rich, I think this shows how special that thing is, which I think most people wouldn't realize. The fact that all the options are good.
Which do you know which version of Pathfinder?
I think two.
Two?
What
Okay.
he was talking about. Again, I haven't played it, so it's just from a secondary sort of view.
It's interesting. I haven't done much of a deep dive into two myself, so I don't have much. I guess I don't have much to say about that.
Apparently, abilities have like a lot of prerequisites that just makes it really hard to find things that you can get, and a lot of things you can get are just bad options. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you have basically gone headfirst in the Draw Steel design,
Yes.
doing so many cool stuff. Like I will say, I think I mentioned it in episode 2, but your gunslinger was very inspiring to me. Like specifically, I loved that ability where it was, I think the sheriff got it or something, where that you could describe what you think happens, and
Yes.
then the DM has to answer it. And I thought that was so cool, like so cool. Um, so
Yeah.
why do you think anything specifically? Why do you think it's such a good system to roll the design for?
I mean, the sort of, I think a lot of it is just the inspiration based off of what is already there. And when you have a book full of cool ideas, it makes it easy to go, oh, I could do, XYZ that works sort of like this and sort of like that and sort of like something from an entirely different game, but you pull it all together and you can sort of just I guess sort of there's sort of a natural, when you're designing something, you kind of design to the standard you're used to, right?
Right.
Like, and even if it's just subconsciously being like, well, it feels like it should be like that. And so, with how tight Draw Steel is, with how evocative it is, there's a lot of flavor in so many things. And for me personally, what I see is sort of being like the pinnacle of design. What I always try to aim for is having the flavor and the mechanics of an ability just go hand in hand so well that it feels like it would be wrong to make it be anything else. And I know Jordy actually has talked a bit about how he sees that as sort of like what the best design stuff does. But it really shows through, and this is something that I'd actually come to a conclusion about years ago on my own. So then seeing Draw Steel say, "Oh yeah, no, that's the way you do it, and this is what happens when you do it this way," is definitely gratifying to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. Man, I cannot talk today. That's really well said. I think that is a really a core part, at least for me, of the draw steel is when I read like an ability name in draw
Mhm.
steel, I instantly am interested in that ability, and it almost always is doing maybe not exactly what I thought it would do, but something close to what I would think it would do.
I was talking in our previous episode.
Mhm.
As part of that, we mentioned a little bit about names in Jaw Steel and how when designing things, it makes you want to make these really cool names. Um, and again, I think this whole system is full of that because I think they put weird stuff in the system. I think that's for the benefit of designers. Let them know, hey, you could do this, right? The fact that there are time raiders and Memenek in the system, the fact that there is a literal complication where you're a colony of bacteria, like a fungus.
I forgot about
I
that one.
I think it's so much cool stuff in the system that it gives you an allowance to design cool stuff.
Mhm.
That is weird. So Tamwin, I know you're big in the Jawstone community, but what have you made like in the community that you would sort of put forward as your things you've made that are good like examples of your work?
Mhm. Well, I've got a sort of the first thing that I made for the community was a the kit math. That was something that I actually initially reverse engineered from playtests. This was back when they were on 2d6 power roll, not 2d10 power roll.
Back in the olden
And
days.
yeah, so this was a version that never got to the public or patrons or anything because it got updated to 2DN within the internal playtesting. Um, but I managed to get into one of those from the playtest pool, and so I got access to documents, and I saw the kit system, and I tried to I looked at the numbers and went, okay, that's the budget, that's how it works. They later actually changed the kit system a bit, and
Those monsters.
I yeah, well, it was with good reason. They basically the first point of stability and stamina is more valuable
Hmm.
because of I won't get into anyway. So they changed it. There's actually that was one where I couldn't figure out what was going on with it and why the numbers weren't adding up. But uh, thankfully, James Intercasso, it got mentioned on a stream, and he popped into the Patreon channel and said, "Hey, here's what you missed, basically." So then I took that. I did a little write up. It was a post in the Homebrew channel. Um, I actually have the second ever post in the Drawsteel homebrew. The first one, of course, being Willie posting a picture of Kirby with a clown hat on, who did before the channel was public, because that's what Willie does. Um, but yeah, so
I
I've
kind of see
made I.
you.
Mhm.
Sorry, I kind of see you as one of sort of the leading figures in Josteel Homebrew. It's because how much you post about it, how much you're sort of active in that sort of circle of the Josteel community.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I like to think that too, though. Saying it about myself is a bit of a little bit of ego, a little bit of ego. But yeah, no, I try to comment on other people's stuff, give them feedback, give them design balance, because a lot of the numbers, it's easy to make a good concept and sort of have no idea what the numbers should be,
Right.
and
yeah,
so I like lending my expertise in that sense about how things should be balanced. Um, in terms of things that people who are listening to that podcast that they can find. Um, I haven't published a ton yet. Most of it has I've got some articles in the Blacksmiths Guild. In the first issue, I posted a guide of so you want to make an ancestry, which is a basically complete walkthrough of everything you need in order to make your own custom ancestry for Draw Steel. Talks about the math behind it, design principles and philosophies, gives some examples of what various traits are like, and then at the end walks through the process of creating a custom ancestry.
If I'm
Nice.
correct, it was the mnemonic something, right?
It was axiomatic harpies was the ancestry.
Axiomatic harpies. Where did that
That
come
was
from?
so basically when I was sort of writing out my the like the article. I was talking about how don't I think what makes draw steel is how they take all the ancestors, they have their own takes on things. Like they don't just have half giants, they have people who have seen the moment of their own death, the Hakan, right? And that's
Right.
just this sort of epic badass thing. So I talked about it's like don't just make, if you're gonna make mole people, give them water magic, right? What would mole people with water magic instead of earth magic? Like how would be different about it? Yeah, don't just make normal harpies. Make harpies that are from Axiom and have wings that are blades of metal, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to do my going through an ancestry, and then I go, what do I want to do? Well, those harpies with blades of axioms that I invented on the spot. That sounds like a pretty cool idea there. So let's explore that. So it wasn't an idea I had at all before I started writing that article, but I had that initial spark, and then I sort of expanded on it.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I also say I just checked. But yeah, you've also you've gave me criticism on some things I've put out onto specifically the manifold, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think specifically like it was a jug of many, like it was like a jug of plenty, and the vorpal
Mm-hmm.
blade. Yeah, again, you're really sort of useful. Like again, I really do appreciate that because it's really
Yep.
useful to have sort of people sort of look over your stuff and give advice. So thank
Yeah.
you.
And either of you two, anyone listening to the podcast, if you have a draw steel thing that you want advice or feedback on, you can just ping me, or send me a message, and I will respond. Um,
Awesome.
so yeah,
Um,
so that was the first issue of Blacksmith's Guild. The second issue of the Blacksmith's Guild, I have a Goblin Squad ancestry, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Um, let's see. I've got the Gunslinger class. That is something that it's not quite out yet. I am planning on proper full pulling all the bells and whistles. I've hired an artist who has made some gorgeous cover art. I've got a someone who's going to be doing the layout and making it look all pretty. I've been doing playtesting for months now. So it's really coming together, but I can't wait until that's actually a published product I can point people to. For the time being, levels 1 to 3 are available on uh, in the Discord. There's a channel in the homebrew section. I also have some
I
various. Hmm? You want to talk about the Gunslinger a bit?
I did have a question on
Hmm.
I did have a question on the Gunslinger actually. Like I
Yeah.
said, I have looked over a few times, right? Because I'm a fan of design, and specifically, maybe on the kits. Um, and I know previously, and also the class as a whole, I know previously MCM has talked a lot about how reloading isn't cinematic, right?
Mhm.
And but you kind of directly sort of go against that by having reloading be almost like their main resource mechanic. So I'm curious what your thoughts on are around that.
Okay, so
Do you have
to
any?
understand where I started with the Gunslinger, we're gonna have to go way back to the olden days, back when the Conduit had two resources. They had Wrath, and they had what was the other one? Grace. I think it was Wrath and Grace,
I think it was
or was it? Anyway, where they had two resources
Virtue,
and
Wrath
Wrath.
and Virtue.
They, oh, Wrath and Virtue. That's what it was. I was thinking about Healing Grace. That was confusing me. So Wrath was the heroic resource they used to power their offensive abilities. Virtue was the resource they used to power their, healing allies and buffing their team. And they tried it out, and it ended up not really working in practice. With the random roll at the start of your turn to figure out how much of each you got, you couldn't really plan ahead. And you often ended up in situations where you had a lot of the wrong resource and you felt kind of useless because it was just burning a hole in your pocket, and you didn't need to use it, you didn't want to use it. And they ended up just saying, all right, well, we're cutting those resources, we're just going to give the conduits one heroic resource, piety. And I remember looking at that and going, I bet I could make it work. I'm built different. So there was actually several discussions that happened between me and other people in the Discord, and one of the concepts that got brought up was a gunslinger having two heroic resources, being bullets and nerve. And this was back before heroic resources had been standardized, sort of all spend in the same way. So there have been concepts about with nerve, maybe you're trying to like keep it at a certain level, right? Not too high, not too low. And there's like benefits or restrictions based on. But then, the game progressed, the design was refined, and I kept working on the gunslinger. And in terms of like the sort of you're saying about reloading not being a heroic thing. One of the things I think is like sort of key to the design of the gunslinger is I don't ever actually like ask you to keep track of how many bullets you have. All that matters is how many are in your gun, right? So you've got ammo, you can reload. You're never gonna run out. But, you've got, three guys in front of you and only two shots left type of deal.
Right.
That gets drama, that gets tactics. Yeah.
I was
And with
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm gonna keep going for a while. You should inject your thoughts now.
Okay. I was gonna say I had that exact same thought about reloading. My first thought was when Jacob said that the MCDM had been of the opinion that reloading isn't cinematic. My first thought is I can't think of anything more cinematic. And I'm not talking about like watching somebody sit there thumbing bullets into a magazine for 10 minutes and then slapping that into the rifle. I'm talking about it's oh, I can't remember which western it is, but it's the whole, now I know you're sitting there thinking to yourself, did I fire 5 shots or did I fire 6? Right? That's not directly reloading, but that's about reloading, right? How much ammo you have. Or in a movie, when a character reloads, assuming it's a more cinematic styled movie, it's almost always at the worst possible time, right? It's all about that cinematic, or like what you're saying, right? I got 3 guys in front of me, I've got 2 bullets. What am I gonna do? How do I get around that? Or a classic thing for gunslingers. This comes up in Stephen King's what is that one? Dark Tower. Is like reloading on the fly and like trying to manage that like ammo. I think it's very cinematic, and if done right.
So
I agree. I was curious seeing what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of cinematic and narrative stuff that happens with bullets. And for me, what's always the sort of the like what made me really dive into and try to make it work was from like the mechanics side of things. Because the gunslinger has access to a bunch of different kits. And you can have a shotgun, which only has 2 bullets, or you can have a Gatling gun that has 12. Or, your classic pistol with 6, a rifle with 4. And I needed to find a way to balance these, extremely varied amounts of bullets with each other to make it so that, like, picking one or the other wasn't, didn't make you weaker or stronger. And combining that with the class itself, there are a lot of abilities that cost extra bullets to use, right? If you're using big AoE attacks, those cost a lot of bullets. Like there's an ability called Fan the Hammer, which lets you hit 5 guys, and each shot costs a bullet. And so that was like what really grabbed me and made me try to crack this nut. And I ended up making it work, and part of it is based off of just like having higher damage values for the lower bullet weapons. So shotguns tend to have a +4/+4/+4 damage spread. Every other kit in the game caps out at half that, so
Right.
you get a lot, but you're gonna have to reload, honestly, more than once a turn, which you only have one maneuver. How does that work? The other half of that is one of the gunslinger's sort of unique. So like every class has their own sort of unique way of spending heroic resources in some way or another. Tacticians have their mark spends, elementalists have persist. For the gunslinger, they have a mechanic called all in, where whenever they spend some of their nerve or they use a signature, they can go all in and spend all of it. And then they spend that nerve on a bunch of like special effects that they can get. And one of the first ones you get is quick load, which just lets you get a couple extra bullets. And so then that helps the lower ammo weapons have a way to keep up. And if something happens, like say you're dazed, you don't have a maneuver for that turn. You're empty. Well, you can still go all in, get those bullets, still be attacking, and you're not ever locked out by the fact that you can run out of ammo. It just makes you have to put everything in, not be holding back, which I think is just like I said, marrying that flavor and mechanics together in a way that just, I don't know. That's what I go for. That's what I try to create when I design.
Well,
Nice.
I am a huge fan. I feel next time I play Joust as a player, I won't be surprised if I go Gunslinger.
Fair.
I think you're really hitting a really good level with it, and I'll be the first in line when it comes out.
I mean, hey, I'm. You might not have to wait until it comes out. I might slide you a little something before then. We'll see.
I love that. That'd be great. So, are you planning on? I imagine I know a lot of people have been doing a lot of Kickstarters for Draw Steel classes and ancestors and such. Do you have any similar plans with the Gunslinger or any other projects, or do you think it's all going to be created and released in that way?
Yeah. So I don't have a history. I don't have a portfolio. I can't point to other stuff I've made because I haven't published anything before. So in my mind, it's like I'm not going to put out a Kickstarter not having something to point to and saying I can back it up. You can trust me with your money. So what I've just done is I've put some of my own money forward to pay for all the stuff that needs to happen, and then I'll just be releasing a finished product. In the future, I may end up using a sort of a crowdfunder style model, if as much to sort of figure out how much can I afford to spend on art, right? Because if a lot of like, I'd love to commission 4 different pieces of art for a thing just to have a bunch of cool art in a book, but if not selling that many copies, well, I can't afford it.
Yeah, art's
In the
always sort
future,
of the
you're saying about art.
yeah. I'm saying art's always one of the biggest sort of cost walls whenever you want to make something like really nice. Right. We've been trying to face in that issue with upcoming stuff, and it's been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's like you can get some pretty good stuff just from stock art, but
Mm-hmm.
having some custom art that just really captures what you're going for, it takes it to another level. And I think, like, especially for the cover art, if you're trying to make a premium product, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got the Gunslinger. That's probably the thing that's going to be coming out in a reasonable amount of time. I'm also planning on releasing more guides in the flavor of so you want to make an ancestry. Specifically, one focused on kits and one focused on making leveled treasures. Because I think the 3 of those together are going to be like when a director is trying to bring Draw Steel to their table, those are the main things they're going to want to tweak a little to add something to their campaign, right? Maybe they've got a little bit of a steampunky or have some flintlocks in their fantasy, and so they want some gun kits to go with it. Maybe they've got their own races, or they're porting in a campaign from a different system that had to other races, and so one of the players needs their race turned into an ancestry. And then, of course, it's always fun making magic items. And again, if you're trying to pour it in something, or you've got like, a sword that marks the true heir of a bloodline, right? You want to have a cool treasure for that.
Right.
So those 3 guides are, I think, the most important, and one of the ones I'm focused on getting out. Hopefully have that done within a month. Likely not going to be that fast.
Fair.
I get it. Yeah.
After that, I'm planning on doing some like class expansions, where it's going to come with a collection of 3 subclasses and then a bunch of alternate abilities and core features. So some extra signatures you could choose from, some alternatives to the main sort of class progression. Because one of the things that's been brought up a bit is like it's impossible to make a non-magical Fury, because
Yeah.
at like I was 4th and 6th levels, you're getting these magical powers. You get the ability to open portals,
Oh,
and for a lot of people, that doesn't feel like what they want their Fury to be.
right.
And and so I think it's easy to make a sort of a class expansion that says, hey, look, at this level, pick one of these 2 options, and that allows you to keep everything you like about the Fury and the things it does, that fit that fantasy, while avoiding things that you go, not really me.
Yeah.
So I think a
I
sort
get
of a class expansion pack is I guess the most elegant way of handling that.
Yeah, nice.
I think people are really sleeping on subclasses as a design space. Like I saw you had like a few like subclasses of your own. Like you had like a banner sort of a tactician, right? And like a few
Yeah,
things similar to that.
yeah. So those are the 3 that I'm planning on for the tactician currently are a bodyguard subclass, where you put your mark on an ally instead of an enemy, and then you've got special benefits to help protect them. Um,
Cool.
um, like for example, that they have a triggered action called Get Down, where you take the hit instead of them. Classic have damage triggered action, but we can redirect it. They've got a 2nd level feature back to back, where as long as you are adjacent to exactly one other ally, you can't be flanked. You've got bonus stability, and you take half damage from any attack targeting both of you. Just like sort of really capture that, the bodyguard fantasy of this person's not dying while I'm here. I've got the standard bearer, which is focused on like kind of leaning a little bit more into sort of like the control and the um like the leader aspect of the tactician, in terms of focused on mobility for allies, cleansing status conditions, um treating your team as your weapons, as it were. um and then the final subclass I had in mind is the exemplar, where sort of the premise is getting into that little like I've studied the blade type of thing, where you're just so good at what you're doing that it's inspiring your allies, and focus on being a more like directly martial tactician, in a way that the tactician is more of a warlordy.
I remember there was someone on Reddit who really was looking for that fantasy, and they
Mhm.
felt that there was it didn't exist in Draw Steel, and so it's really cool that you're making that. That's awesome. Were you inspired by that? Did you see that post on Reddit? You
So
looked
actually,
into it?
I there's a comment on there from me saying like, hey, I've got this idea that I'm working on. So I've had that idea for longer. I do think for what they specifically were looking for, there's space for actually a shadow subclass,
Yeah.
and I believe it's Isengrim is working on something that's closer to that, where it's a like effectively College of the Blade that is focused on being a um, really getting into that sort of like um, wep- master of one weapon, as opposed to the tactician who's got their sort of like master of every weapon idea.
I'm working on
I've,
also Shadow subclass. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, I've got 4 shadow subclasses too. I've got so I've got so many things. I've got a bunch of ideas.
Yeah.
I've got other class ideas that are still sort of in the early concept phases. I've got a chronomancer, which is grabbing the uses own like fights only with triggered action concept. So
Wow.
they only get, so basically the way the chronomancer works is they get only the only like signature action that their class gets ever is bottled time, and it gives you 2 more triggered actions. So basically, and we'll see how the balance ends up going. But it's going to be like 3 or 4 triggered actions every round, and all of your signatures, all of your heroics, they're going to be triggered actions. And seeing what I can do with that, I've got another 2 heroic resource class, the Dimensionalist, with Warp and Weave, where half your kit is about creating portals and like teleporting people, and the other half is about creating arcane constructs. And as you spend 1 resource, you get the other. Anyway, yeah, I have ideas for days, for weeks, for months. I'm planning to be designing in Draw Steel for quite a while.
Awesome. That's really cool. The ultimate element, time. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any other last notes on Draw Steel, Tamwin?
Not that I can think of. Like, it's like, we only have so long for the podcast. It's not like I could describe everything about the system. And I'm sure if I just sat here for 2 minutes, I could think of another 3 things to wax poetic about.
That's fair.
System's good. What can I say?
Right? Yeah. Again, yeah, I've been running the campaign. It's been good. So we're getting into the meat of what we're. Well, let me rephrase that. It looks like we're going to get into the prompts, which is sort of the seed to see what we make in the next sort of week, right? And I'm really excited to see what we all make.
Yeah.
So to start off, Tamwin, do you want to give us your prompt?
All right. So, my prompt is: Mom says it's my turn to have the brain cell.
That's such a good prompt. Wow. Okay.
And
Cool.
you can make of that whatever you want, but that's my prompt, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it.
I love it. I love the prompts that are super just like out there and have to like forces you to sort of like to figure out what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to roll d6, which means on a 1 to 3, Will would get this one. 4 to 6, I get it.
Need to get out my die, and that's a 4.
Yes.
So I get it.
Sorry, I had no idea what to do
Will
with that
get
prompt. I was sweating bullets.
Do you mind putting the prompt in the chat just so I have it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think you can make some cool stuff with that.
It's also going to be on the scripting document, Jacob.
Awesome, thank you. You make a lot with that, and I think, like, I imagine almost like my initial like instinct is like, I know they've been making a lot of my initial instinct is I know the MCDM gave a try at a swarm creature or swarm like ancestry with multiple sort of different guys, like goblins or something. I think that probably really good for that or something like that. Or
so funny you should mention that. In issue 2 of the Blacksmith's Guild fanzine, which is out now, I made a Goblin Squad ancestry.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
Like you're playing a squad of goblins?
Yes, you are 5 guys.
You mean I can finally be 5 goblins in a trench coat?
You might not be able to fit all of them in a trench coat. But there is one of the perks you can get is basically your leader is a size 1/0 creature, and that can be because it's just 3 goblins in a trench coat. Yeah. Also, every goblin must have their own name, and it basically I went for a little bit of what's the word? Like almost sort of a little bit slapstick with these guys, because the way it works is whenever you drop a third of your stamina, so 1 recovery worth, one of the goblins dies, and then when you spend recovery, a new goblin hops out from somewhere, and so it's very chaotic. It's very fun. I've done a few tests with it, and it's just they're a riot playing with them.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know there's multiple interpretations of that in the Jostle community, because visually that was something
Mhm.
MCM was going to do, till they realized it was kind of pigeonholing any goblin character to be like a swarm, and but it's
Yeah,
I think it's a really cool option.
yeah, it was actually kind of funny because they came up with the idea, and I went, "Wow, this is an amazing idea! I can't wait for them to do it." And then on streams, they went, well, we ran into some roadblocks. We're not sure we're going to be able to do it." So I picked up the torch and charged forward. And
I'd love
then
to see that.
more recently, they said, like, actually, we're working on a goblin ancestry, and we've got this. We think we can make it work again. I'm looking forward to see what MCM does with the concept.
It will be fun to
I
see.
am. I don't know if it's going to be a trade or not, but I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
So, going into my prompt for Will.
Me.
Yeah, I was talking about Will. I was talking to Will about this a little bit earlier. Do you know what Legends and Lattes is? Anyone?
Legends and lattes.
Okay, it's a very popular, basically, fantasy book that kind of made a big sort of a stink around the sort of fantasy genre. Uh, It
Hmm.
it is basically the big sort of conceit of it is it's cozy fantasy. The idea of slightly lower stakes fantasy, like very like down to earth, a bit more sort of chill humanistic.
Slice of
And
life type.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And I think that while at first I think it seems very different from Jostiel, I think you could fit in some good cozy fantasy in Jostiel. So Will, we were talking about this earlier about fishing, how you didn't think it belonged in Jostiel. I'm giving you cozy fantasy as my prompt, Will.
Never mind. I take it back. I want Tamwin's prompt. Okay. Cozy fantasy. Well, shit.
Cozy fantasy.
Oh, okay. Man, that's gonna be a tough nut for me to crack.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this a ploy to make me
Wow.
read Legends and Lattes?
No, you don't need to read it. It's a good book. You should read it, but you don't need to read to do this. It's basically cozy fantasy. Whatever. Again, you could interpret it many ways. I was just
Yeah.
inspired by Legend of Lattes.
Oh
So,
man, that's gonna be hard for me. I'm really drawing a blank with what to do with that.
like, you could do like maybe some downtime actions if you want to do more fishing-esque things. I think like, oh, baking bread as a downtime. Big
Don't
Stardew. I think if you pull from the Stardew
don't
well,
even.
I think it's good stuff.
I don't know.
Maybe a farmer subclass. I don't know. You could do a lot of stuff.
I think my first thought, and I'm gonna have to look into how the system did this, but I know there was a system designed around doing like TTRPG. It might have been more on like the collective storytelling end of the game spectrum for like cozy Cthulhu mythos inspired murder mysteries. And I might look into that because my first thought is to do like a cozy adventure,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure how to do that. So that's really wild. I
Yeah. The thing
I'm
is,
never
draw
I'm
steel
never
is
inviting
so.
you two on this podcast again. You can't do this to me. I lost no matter
The thing
whose
is,
prompt I got.
yeah. The thing is, yeah, draw steel is a heroic tactical fantasy cinematic thing, and that kind of doesn't go with cozy fantasy, but I think it could really well with the right implementation.
Well, we'll see if I
And the
can get
right
the right
stuff.
implementation.
You could make a location. Maybe it's okay. Like you do a lot of that. I think you could
We'll
the whole
see.
idea of the book, for example, right, is about like an orc adventurer who sort of retires and opens up a coffee shop, basically,
Right.
and yeah, you could do a lot of that. You could do good stuff.
Okay. Well, my prompt for you, Tamwin,
Hmm.
is where no light can reach you.
Ooh.
Really a fan of light, aren't you, Will?
It's only come up twice.
Still,
I mean, how many episodes of the podcast I've had? Like, that's like what,
No, nope,
40%?
doesn't matter. Nope, it's
yeah,
not
right.
important. Well,
Alright, where no
to
light can reach.
sorry, to peek behind the curtain of my thought process a little bit, my first thought was like, oh, underground adventure or underground something, and I was like, oh, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of too boring. I really like my prompts to sound pretentious,
Hmm.
so I was like, how can I make How can I thematically connect that to being more like flowery?
Gotta have the high elf name flavoring.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of high elf.
I am too. Really
Like
good.
there was a while
Oh,
where
that's
I
fun.
just like randomly be posting high elf names in the Timescape chat.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on that one, Tamlin?
Yeah. So well, actually, do you want to hear sort of my thoughts where I might be going with it, or do you want to keep that a surprise?
You can mention like
I
ideas you have for it.
Yeah. Okay.
big
So, because
ideas.
like,
I think as long as you don't outright spoil it, because yeah, just maybe get multiple ideas. Maybe it's yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because like, sort of where we're like, where my mind first goes is like when you present something in a more like sort of poetic way like that, it makes me want to get sort of poetic in return. So here I am going like the darkness of my soul type of deal, or like being severed from the light of hope type of just sort of the an abyss of darkness. And I don't know, there's some options. Like, do I make an entirely full custom class for this podcast? Probably not. Am I tempted? Yes.
Oh, keep in mind, you don't have to make a full class. You can make level 1 or level or 2 levels, right?
Yeah,
You don't have to do like the
I
full thing.
could.
Yeah,
Uh, but I mean, even just level one's a lot of work, at least for the
Fair.
standards I tend to hold myself to. So,
that's fair.
but
I
I
think
have
subclasses are
ideas, TM.
I'm excited to see what you make.
Me too.
Just like when I hear that, I think like abyss like underwater stuff.
Hmm. That's another thought
Ooh,
I had. Yeah, was underwater.
I hadn't had that idea, but now I do.
Another thing
Like
I
if you
thought
watch
of.
like seen like the game Soma.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Uh,
If
I've
you've seen
heard of
Soma,
some.
like the game,
I've heard of it. I've never played it or watched it.
it's really good. It's one of those games that whenever you play it, it's ruined for you because like some good twists in it and such. I recommend it, or even just watch
Gotcha.
someone
So
play it.
yeah.
That's what I did.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's set
I'm
underwater.
a yeah.
I was gonna say another thing I thought of just now because I never think about this being in draw steel because I don't really do sci-fi in my fantasy, as we've talked about
I
in
do.
previous episodes. With like the whole timescape and the Time Raiders and Memenek, could probably do something like space or space themed.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's pretty easy for light to reach you in space,
Black
just really
hole,
far
yeah, but
away.
like black holes and stuff
Yeah.
you can do.
That's a question, Tamwin. Where do you stand on the timescape as a part of Vaslori? Like, are your all your stuff in Vaslori itself? Or do you like capital, or are you a timescape head?
Well, so something to understand about me is I have been world building basically since longer than I have memories of my life.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've just been world building, yeah, for my entire life. I don't know what I started on because, like I said, when I try to think of some of my earliest childhood memories, like I had like established worlds and stuff, and it actually wasn't until I was like a junior in high school that I stumbled on the world building subreddit and went, wait, other people do this thing too?
Yeah.
So you give me the slightest excuse and I am creating an entirely new world um,
Sorry.
Yeah.
for something. So I'm not planning on running anything in Vasloria. In terms of the
Honestly, fair enough.
timescapes, in terms of the timescape stuff specifically, um, yeah, they don't quite fit with fantasy as I like to do it. That said, I am getting Memenek in there. Specifically, that like at the end of the last age, when the heavens were shattered, one of the shards of heaven fell like into the material plane. And that is Axiom, that is where Memenek come from. And they're basically like almost like sort of similar vibes to Asimar in that sense, but
Okay,
still
that's fun.
keeping a lot of their themes about, like the Velaparthara, the like the disease called emotion, and being perfect beings in an imperfect world.
I really love the mimetic fiction because it gives you such an idea of who they are. I think more than anything else in that book.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the phrase that, do you like your science fiction and do you mix your sci-fi and fantasy at all, or is it just all fantasy for you, or all sci-fi?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm fine with doing things like Star Wars, which is, you know, a science fantasy, and
Yeah.
there's like magic in space. But yeah, I generally don't like having like sci-fi elements in fantasy. And another, I get this is like, it's perfectly valid to do this. It's still a pet peeve to me, is the, like, whenever there's a world and there's an ancient civilization that, like, was better than the current stuff in every way. Like, there's this sort of the precursors, these ancient artifacts that are, you know, have power overwhelming. And, like, yeah, sure, we can throw some buried sources of primordial evil and other goodies, you know, from a forgotten age. But let the current age be doing something that no one else figured out. Let them have wonders and marvels that a previous age couldn't dream of. So
I'm with
I
you on
think
that.
I in my current game I do have one of those precursor like high sci-fi sort of vibes.
Mhm.
But I think I do agree with you to have the current age not just be, although not just be a shadow, but I also will say I also do love sort of the themes of like the current age being lesser than the last. Like I know Matt talked about it a lot in one of his running the game videos. I think it's just a really interesting theme to explore.
Fair. Yeah, I'm also not a huge fan. I think, as I touched on a bit ago, of science fiction in my fantasy, but I'm very similar to you, Tamwin, in that I like science fantasy. Like if it's Star Wars or even, I mean, Star Trek to a certain extent with all its like weird psionics and all the space gods they run into and all of that. And I'm fine it with like a steampunk game that has magic in it or something. But if the game is supposed to kind of be, I don't know, like classic medieval slash Renaissance era generic fantasy, I want it to be fantasy. I don't want like sci-fi stuff in it. Which is why you will never ever ever find a Time Raider and probably never ever ever find a minute. I can't even say them in a draw steel game I run. I'm sorry for
They're
anyone.
anathema.
I'm sorry for anyone who plays in my games who really like those races. They do not fit in the worlds I build, really at all.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Well, that was fun. I
Yeah,
can't wait to see what we all make because I think these
yeah.
are really interesting. I think Will would disagree, but I think these are all really very possibility filled prompts.
I think they're possibility filled. I just don't know what to do with them. That doesn't mean there aren't possibilities. That's a failing on my part.
Well, we'll see you all after the break then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's the editor of the Psychogenic Symposium. Will, Jacob, and Tamwin love yapping, so we've had to break this episode up into 2 parts. To see the results of everything they worked on, head over to part 2, which should be linked above or in the description below. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly of all, enjoy.